Math with Mr. Baumhofer.
Greetings, third graders. Mr. Baumhofer here with another video lesson on fractions. So to begin, we'll go over our vocabulary words and definitions. Denominator is the number on the bottom of the fraction, and it tells how many parts the whole is divided into. The numerator, the number on the top of the fraction, tells how many equal parts you are talking about. Unit fraction is a fraction that has a numerator of 1. So depending on how many units there are, one of those will be the unit fraction. For example, if there are 10 units or sections, 1/10 would be the unit fraction. If there are 5 units or sections, 1/5 would be the unit fraction. Okay? So let's take a look at what we looked at last time in the other fractions video on unit fractions. I kind of showed you how each unit gets smaller and smaller as the denominator, or the number on the bottom, gets larger. It means you're getting one smaller section or unit. And here are 4 bar graphs that show one whole, and then we split that one whole into 2 parts. So we have 1 out of 2 parts and 1 out of 2 parts. Then we split it out into 3 parts. We have 1 out of 3 parts, and we have 3 of those. Okay, and then we split it into 4 parts. We have 1/4, so we have 4 of those. So here's how it would look on a numbered line or a fraction line. Okay, so we have between 0 and 1, this is our whole. Okay, and then this is where 1/2 would be. And here's where 1/3 of our whole would be. And 1/4 of our unit, 1/6, 1/8. Are you noticing a pattern here? Okay, so if we look at this number line, I didn't put 1/5 or 1/7 in. Where would 1/5 be on this number line? If we were looking for the fraction 1/5, well, it would show up somewhere in here. Okay, and we know that because if we look at the pattern, as the units get smaller, the unit fractions get smaller, the denominator or number on the bottom gets bigger. So right here is where 1/5 would be. Okay, and then 1/7, well, can we take a guess? You're right, it would show up in between 6 and 8. And these would progressively get closer and closer to each other because they are getting smaller and smaller. Now, let's say I had a fraction bar split into tenths. Well, how many unit fractions would be in the fraction bar? The answer to that would be 10. So if I took this one whole fraction bar and split it into 10 pieces, I would have 10 units. And how would you write the unit fraction for that, for those 10 pieces? Well, the unit fraction always has a numerator of 1, and we know there's 10 parts that make up the whole, so it would be 1/10. And that is where 1/10 would show up on the number line if we were showing fractions as well. Okay, now let's take a look at one of the pages from it would be the second packet we sent home. It would be week 1, day 3. If you do this page we're about to do, make sure you do the reading comprehension check that will be on the other side of it first, and try to answer those questions as best you can before cutting out on this page. So on this page, what we're doing is we have 3 fractions, and our directions are to cut and paste the fraction to the correct column. So we have 5 over 7, or 5/7, 1 over 3, or 1/3, 2 over 5, or 2/5. And so we go down here to our images, our geometric shapes. Here we have a square. It looks like a square. And first, you should count the total number of sections or equal sections that the shape is split up into, and that will be your denominator. So if we look at this first one right here in the upper left corner, we see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 total. That would be my bottom number. And then how many do I have shaded? Well, there's 1, 2. So I have 2 over 5. And so this one would go under the 2/5 column. Okay? So that would go under the 2/5 column. All right? So let's take a look at the one below it. We have a geometric shape here, and it's split into 3 smaller triangles. Okay, and so my denominator will be 1, 2, 3. That's how many total parts there are that make up the whole. Then there is one shaded part, and that is your numerator. That goes on the top. So it'll be 1 out of 3, or 1/3. Let me do one more. So if we come over here and look at this shape right here, this square with all these small little skinny sections, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shaded. So I have 5 over 7, or 5/7. Okay, third graders, I hope that helps. Stay tuned for more videos on fractions.